Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the next stage. How are you all doing tonight? Those of you who are on mute are like, welcome, welcome. Oh, I see some pretty cool backgrounds. For those of you who are new, we are coming to you sort of from San Jose, kind of where City Lights is located. And every week we have this series, The Next Stage, and we highlight different artists in our community, whether they are dancers, playwrights, actors, musicians, all kinds. Tonight, I'm really excited to bring together two super awesome artists. Michael Mitnick is a playwright and a songwriter who also writes for television and writes for film. He wrote two shows that were here at City Lights. One was Spacebar, a Broadway play by Kyle Sugarman, and that had its world premiere here in 2013. And he also wrote the romantic comedy, The Siegel, which was at City Lights in 2018. He's worked on many other shows, including the off-Broadway musical Fly By Night. He wrote the movie The Giver with Meryl Streep, someone you may have heard of, and tons of other works. Tonight, I am going to sit back and let the interview be conducted by George Psarras, who is our resident sound designer and composer here at City Lights. He's also a professional actor. He was in Spacebar when it premiered at City Lights in 2013, and he's probably familiar to you because he's done many, many shows here. And I am just going to sit back, let them conduct their interview. If you have questions during the show, feel free to type them into the chat, and we'll have more of an audience Q&A after George's interview. And I almost forgot, I do have a slideshow that I'm going to show real quick that has some of the highlights of Michael Mitnick's career so far, but only so far. Lisa's clapping. Here we go. A lot of great stuff. And if George doesn't ask about Scotland, PA, I'm going to, because I believe that's the one that the New York Times called a kick-ass party. It was a great review.
Yeah, right. Let's do it. Why don't we roll right into it? That's your latest thing.
Let's go, George.
Michael, unmute yourself. Let's get rolling, buddy. Talk to us about Scotland, PA. That's your latest thing. I believe it's based on a movie, right?
Yeah. It's based on a fantastic movie of the same title that I first saw in high school. And many years later, when the Roundabout and this my co-writer, Adam Guan, had a commission to find something and someone to work with and something to write about, I was one of the playwrights that he auditioned. And he said, all right, so what ideas do you have? And my mind went back to seeing that movie. And I always thought that it felt like a musical. Anyone who doesn't know the basic story, it's the Scottish play, and but set in a kind of fictionalized 1975, where there's no such thing as McDonald's. And so Mac and Pat, Macbeth, end up taking over Duncan's crappy diner and turned it into a McEmpire all the while Macduff is on their tail. So it reminded me of kind of Little Shop of Horrors. You know, in some world it could be a distant relative of that. And we wrote into a musical. We did it at the Roundabout right before COVID, and over COVID, Adam and I rewrote about half the show, and
That's awesome.
hopefully we'll be back with it.
Is Roundabout going to put it up again, or somewhere else possibly, or you don't know, or you can't say?
I don't know, but hopefully it'll be on a little tour of small theaters.
Awesome.
As we tune it up, because we had our out of town tryout in New York.
Sweet, man. Well, I can't wait to see that.
Thanks.
So you and I met probably around, I guess it was, so we did Spacebar in 2013, and I feel like it was maybe 2011 where I got randomly cast in this reading through, I think, Playwrights Foundation, and Marissa Wolf was directing this. She used to run Crowded Fire. Now she's in Portland. And she was directing this new work, and I don't know how they just like blindly cast me in this role, like readings do. They just cast people and whoever they get, and boom, it happens. And we did a couple of readings. One was at the Thick House in Potrero Hill in San Francisco. And
I was so thrilled because George just got it. And it was my favorite part of that play. And so I don't think I've ever been happier than just sitting there and listening to you.
Dude, that was so fun. It was like when I got the email from Playwrights Foundation, the first thing I did was just a real quick skim of the character that was offered to me, just to look at if I fit the character and stuff. I was reading these lines. I'm like, these are outrageously funny. These are so over the top and just like so, tight and quick and just really brilliantly written. And I remember when we were doing our rehearsal, I didn't know who wrote this play because we hadn't met yet, and somebody cracked a joke or some joke happened, and I see you like leaning over and kind of laughing, and I deliver one of my lines, and I saw you kind of laughing, and I'm like, oh my God, he and I are gonna get along just fine. And
so it did.
I know. And then it went over so well at the Thick House. I called Lisa and I said, you got to come see this. There's another reading of this at Stanford in a couple of days. Come check this out. You might want to produce it. And she came and checked it out. And I believe she approached you and said, I'm going to do this play. And
yeah, that just doesn't happen. And I didn't believe it. And the play is one of those loony plays that writers write when they're new, and it's just sort of intensely unproducible. But
right.
It's incredible to hear just the enthusiasm in Lisa's voice when she's like, I really dig this play, and not only that, we're gonna do it, and not only that, we're gonna have to find a way to do it. Right.
I mean, it asks for all these crazy things, but it doesn't matter. We found a way to do all that. And this was like, that play holds kind of a special place in your heart, right? Because you started working on that while you were in grad school, correct?
Yes. Yeah. The first draft of that I wrote in grad school. It was really, really long, and it was very, very specific. And the head of our program is Paula Vogel, who I'm sure you've done a bunch of her plays, but like Indecent How I Learned to Drive. And I remember I wrote her into the play, and she just kind of took me into the hallway afterwards. And I'm thinking, oh boy, maybe I think I did it. I think she really liked it. And then she goes, don't write me into your stuff.
So the premise of Spacebar is about this 16-year-old kid named Kyle Sugarman, who has like an unproducible play with Broadway dreams. And he basically is, he has an adolescent imagination, and he wants to do it to get his father's attention, is the short version, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he has this crazy unproducible play, and he runs into this crazy, unhinged, coked out character named Fancy McGee, who I played. And I just have to thank you from this day. I've never had an exit line still that matches the exit line of Fancy McGee. And that is, he's just this crazy director who ends up ruining this kid's play I mean, he has no idea what he's doing. He's literally coked out. We did a thing where I bit the both ends of a red vine, and I snorted coke out of a thing at the auditions. And he's like, "Woo!" And he wants to turn it into a musical, and it's not a musical. And he goes, "Spacebar is not a musical." And my character goes, "Not with that attitude, it's not." And he ends up screwing everything, and then he gets fired. And then the exit line that I have that I'll never forget is, "This is amateur hour. I got a standing offer to direct Jesus Christ Superstar at the Armenian Diocese." And then he storms off, and we just got like the weirdest reaction and the biggest laughs, the combination of both those things. So I have you to thank for that.
Well, truly, I don't think the role could be played better.
Oh, thanks, bud.
It was a lot of fun.
And then the year after, a couple years after that, we met at the ground floor at Berkeley Rep. You were working on a new play, which was called Little Boy Blue back then, and I believe it has a newer title now, and I'm not sure where it's at in terms of your writing locker.
Yeah, it was back then. It was a thriller.
Yeah.
A kind of perfect murder thing.
Right.
Little Boy Blue. George and I worked on it together at Berkeley, and then I retitled it Lion, Pig, Wolf, Snake, and then I started to really sell out, and I pulled the plot out of it, and I stuck it into a TV show that I'm working on right now. So.
Oh, really? So you repurposed it?
I repurposed it, but if it crashes and burns like most things do in my life, we can get that back into the play.
Right.
And I can make the play better, worthy of you, and we'll do another reading. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I'm going to hold you to that. I remember your writing process during that. And for those that don't know about the Berkeley Rep ground floor program, it's like summer camp for playwrights. They bring out major playwrights from all over the country, a lot of them from New York, and directors as well. And they house them. And it's just like you show up and there's a little mess hall and everybody has lunch together, and then everybody has dinner together. And between all that, everybody goes and rehearses their shows, and they come back together and perform their shows in front of each other, just for each other. It's not like the Theater Works New Works Festival, which is great in a different way, which is where you did Fly By Night, where they have audiences and things like that. Those are two such wonderful new work programs that are so fun to be a part of. And I just remember working on Little Boy Blue with you, and the first day of rehearsal, you only had half of it done. And then that night or 2 days later, I remember you like finishing it, and I'm like, you like just bowled through the rest of that. Did you have all those ideas in your head before doing that, or was that inspired by you seeing actors read the first 40 pages in the room?
It was by nature of the plot of Little Boy Blue. It was like a kind of process of elimination,
Right.
Where the one character is trying to kill another character. So a character hires a character to hire a character to kill both this character and the ultimate goal. So it's like all these people are going down, and then there's no direct link back. So it just became a series of my, doing shitty impressions of Edward Albee and writing scenes in the park where you would see the different iterations of the plan in motion. And then it finally got to you. There's also a reveal at the end of the first scene that the main character is blind, and that's why he always insists on meeting his girlfriend, or this girl who becomes his girlfriend, sitting on a bench in the park and just kind of talking. And then at the end, I wanted all the power to go out, so that way, it would be like the Audrey Hepburn. Anyway,
right.
The entire stage would be, in the dark.
That's awesome.
I don't think we could ever get those exit signs off, so it didn't quite work. But I'd like to turn it in.
There are ways. For 5 seconds, you just douse them.
Yeah.
That reminds me of you don't have to mention the person or the project if you're not allowed to or whatever. You pitched something recently to a kind of a famous person about an Agatha Christie piece you might be working on, and you're like, it was kind of similar. He recount that for me. It's like kind of A hires B hires C, and then this and that. That's how you sort of pitch that to that person, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's the one I I took it.
that's the one. Okay. It all comes full circle.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. But actually, I think after a meeting today, most of that is now all gone. So
is it gone? Oh my gosh, that breaks
no.
my heart.
We're still doing it, but we just have new, just different ideas. So
gotcha.
So the play returns to its obscure purity.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what is like right now? What's your deal, bro? No, what's your the balance between commissioned work and sort of original work? What takes precedence now? I mean, you obviously have a big time agent at CAA, name drop, and how often do they come to you saying that we have a project that you'd be good for, or we have a story that we want you to throw into a script, or how do you decide which one is a play, which one is a screenplay, and because they're both different, and what comes across your email every day from them?
The agents are really good at flagging novels or historical books or things that are just there's there are too many incredible stories that
so they nab the rights to the best-selling thing before it's even released, and then they pick the writers.
Their priority, and it's useful just to have someone on the lookout, because I generally try to maybe not intentionally, but just the way I function, sort of do my own thing, and whether it's something historical or original, I'll bring it to them and I'll say, if I think it could be a film more than a play or something else more suited for, and I'll say, like, is this something we can do? And then sometimes they'll say, this really doesn't feel like this is the time to be making a $45 million serious drama about a historical character no one cares about, simply because of the horse budget,
Right.
But other times, I don't know. It's luckily, after doing this now for over 10 years, it's been more of trying to write stuff that can get you as excited as you do in the theater, as one does as a theater writer, and then finding partners in film or TV that'll be like, okay, this might not really be trendy right now, but let's see if it could be something. And a lot of the time it isn't, but every once in a while, I've gotten lucky.
That's awesome. I want to ask you like kind of an industry question that's kind of related to this. So what are the circumstances in which you have to pitch an idea? Is the script already done in order for you to pitch an idea to, like, let's say a big theater actor or a big movie star? Do you have to pitch it after the script is done, or do you have to pitch it to your agent, or do you pitch it after you have, sort of a template of what do you think is going to happen, or a treatment?
Great. Yeah, that's a great question. So a pitch is really just trying to get the other person excited about the idea you have for a film or television show. You generally don't pitch a musical. Well, you would, I guess, to a collaborator, and sometimes to a theater for commission or for something. So if you're talking to the other person, you're essentially just saying, hey, I've got a great idea for a film. It's about, this person and this person. It takes place, so and so. I think it opens with this insane scene where these things are happening, and you're kind of just sort of trying to bring it alive in the room as best you can. Some pitches can be written and you write down ahead of time and think through it. But in my experience, they tend to like to kind of be told a story, to know that if it's a comedy, they're laughing, or If it's something that's meant to be more poignant, they're, if not feeling things, understand how one could feel things. And and also the pitches are short. They're 20 to 45 minutes usually. So there's no way, I mean, from a producer talking about what actors they claim are going to be involved, to someone else saying about, how excited they are, to then talking about what films it's like, so that way the executive feels like it's a safe bet. There's not a lot of time to do it. So a pitch is really just like a movie trailer as best you can.
Right. Did you say 20 to 45 minutes? You're in a seat telling somebody this?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
longer than I thought they would be. I thought it was like 15 tops to get somebody's attention, but I guess it depends on which room you're in.
I think for the entire pitch, 20 to 40 minutes. So it's not,
Right.
I don't, after one person, I mean, I'm a prime example of this at the moment. One person talking for over 7 minutes, I think people start to zone out. So,
Right.
unless it's written by Martin McDonough or someone like that.
Right.
And then a full written script doesn't need any kind of pitch, because the script itself is the pitch.
Gotcha. And your agent has gotten in touch with whoever is going to produce it, so they will read it. You're not trying to get them to read it. Your agent will do that for you.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of the time, almost every single time, I'll write a fan letter, a cover letter, if we're sending it to a director, and just say why I'm really excited about his or her, their work, and then send it, and I just beg them to read the first 10 pages, because I figure if I can hook them in the 10 pages,
Yeah.
then maybe they'll read another 10, and to ask, to flatter them from a genuine place, and then say, please, please, please read just 10. They'll go,
Right.
okay, maybe I'll read 5, and
Right.
hopefully get a better outcome.
It's such a big part of the industry. You hear about honing your pitch and being good at it. Did they teach you that in grad school at Yale? I have a guess to what that answer is, but yeah, no, right?
No.
Well, why don't they? It's such a huge part of like getting your work produced. I wonder.
There's something that's particular to, I think, some drama programs, and Yale is one of them, where they really, at the time I was there, and definitely previously, they may have evolved since then, and I'm 10 years gone, but sort of not looking down a little bit on film and television, really,
Sure.
not allowing students to try out for movies and TV shows, because that could take them away from campus if they are
Right.
intending to remain students. They really wish to train actors in a method, and multiple methods, but the ways that they believe to be a successful way of training an actor. So for pitching, I mostly learned it through trial and error.
Right.
And it was hard. It was learning to try to be more of an actor, and to try to engage the other person, and keep them engaged. Because a lot of the time for years, I was just trying to remember what came next in the story.
Right.
And
You have to keep the whole thing like bullet points in your head.
Keep it going, and then you think you want to tell every detail, but you don't need to.
Right.
You just go.
And you're also pitching you as a personality. They're investing in you on whether they want to spend this time with this person, and they're feeling you out at the same time, and have a half ear for that probably, and half ear for the story as well.
Yeah, that's why I usually wear socks that don't match. And I bring foreign poetry all covered in Post-it notes, even though I've never read the book. It's just sort of the confusion of what's going on in front of them helps to create a wall for which I believe everything is kind of level.
Right, you just throw them off. You're like, who is this guy? He's got like happy birthday socks, and
it's real. Just for the
speaking
job
of,
you want. Yeah.
What's that?
Just for the job you want.
That's it. Speaking of Yale, you want to talk about your time there as a grad student? And I know Paula Vogel. We mentioned Paula Vogel. Who who was responsible for you to sort of who guided you to find your own voice, as they say, as a writer in the theater and for the screen?
I A lot of people are fast to dump on Yale Drama School, and I've always felt that none of them were faster than I was. So no, I'm just kidding. That's not true at all. I Quite the opposite. There are elements there that weren't so swell, but honestly, if you're just thinking about a grad school, it's got tons of different classes and programs, and those instructors are coming and going. So whatever Yale Drama School is, it's different by the semester. Um, while I was there were incredible courses and incredible teachers that I found very inspiring, like Paula Vogel, Richard Nelson, John Guare, Lynn Nottage, Lisa Crone, and I'm going to just automatically leave people out, so I'll just stop right there. But it was a chance to really be forced to write a lot, and then have the benefit of at least hearing it out loud. And None of us were going into debt at the time, because luckily they supported the playwriting program and a couple of the other ones, which is rare and was very important. And there were just magical experiences that I'm one of those people who grew up really respecting and holding in high esteem Stephen Sondheim. So just the notion that I was going over to Stephen Sondheim's house with his old friend John Guare to talk for an afternoon, and then go have dinner and talk to Mike Nichols. And I drop all those names because it completely blew my mind. This kid from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That was constantly starstruck, and I still am while doing this, but it also made me feel like that kind of excitement of like, wow, maybe, because at Yale, you're also running the theater. So, very late nights of painting scenery, my mind would go back to that one night when,
Right. I used to be on Wednesday. I was at Sondheim's having tea. And now I'm painting a tree flat.
This could be something fun.
Right.
Something to do.
That's incredible. Did they help? Now, those schools, obviously they have a lot of connections. They help you kind of like get thrown out into the industry, like Juilliard as well. Like they help you make connections after. They don't just let you, I mean, they may just let you fly, but I feel like they, dovetail you into an industry in a city that's, heavily connected. Did that help?
It depends how much of a pain in the ass you are. No, it's definitely useful. I think the maybe it exists in different disciplines.
Sure.
But the notion of a Yale Mafia didn't really exist. When I think back about the playwriting students, there were 3 a year, and I'd say most of them are employed right now, doing really terrific things. So I guess that does mean that Yale does something, but it's really like it's sort of a stamp of like these people made it through all of these weird barriers.
Sure.
So maybe spend some time listening, going an extra couple of pages in their weird play.
Right. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's up to you as a writer to keep that going and like to keep that momentum and find your own hustle in that, in the world. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's certainly useful when writing film or TV. Sure. For people, I think, just to see that there, because they can be intimidated by something that I really know exactly what we were doing with our time. But,
right.
Yeah. So,
speaking of, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Speaking of what you do with your time, how has this crazy pandemic affected you as a writer? We come up to a year today, actually. When things hit the fan, how has it affected you? The ups and downs, and when you feel First of all, has your work slowed down? I mean, that because there are so many things in development, particularly in film and TV, there's such a backlog of things that are in development. It takes such a long time to get into production if they're lucky. Did you have that backlog of work to work on during that time? And or did you have time to get to some of your own sort of passion projects? And then how did this whole you can't leave your apartment thing affect your workflow?
It it um in different ways. Uh, I, I, I think I like all of us felt really. It's difficult to watch the theater community over the last year to just see how little the government support until recently cared about an industry that was bringing in more money than um, food service or something like that. But there doesn't need to be comparisons to highlight the importance of those people.
Right.
So that's been upsetting to see my friends do that. Um, Oddly, I mentioned that my co-writer on Scotland PA, Adam Guan, and I have been rewriting the show, and in a way, having there be no deadline because our sort of tour was canceled has been great because we've just been oddly, when you birth the show in New York, it's generally the end of it. So to go back in and to write half of it because we think we can do certain bits better has been good. It's been hard to be inspired to do new things, and so in many ways, having assignments on movies has been a bit of a blessing because it just keeps me focused, and I'm doing generally a string of historical things. So
Right.
it's like putting an elderly man in front of a puzzle, and so, he's very very pliable. It's like,
Now, are you one of those writers that can work on multiple things at the same time and come back to them, whenever you feel it's right?
I think I can. Certain reviewers disagree. The, uh, I am able to do it. To some extent, I found I have to do it just because film, TV, and theater, and straight theater and musical theater don't operate on typical schedules. Is
Right.
that everything you write and everything you work on happens out of order, and things that are dead suddenly pop back, and somebody needs something last, yesterday, and something appears that wasn't there before. So by automatically you end up working on multiple things at once. But I am, I think, unfortunately for my wife, very much able to compartmentalize and say, we're done spending time in not Nazi occupied Poland. We're going to go over to an adaptation of A Christmas Carol.
Right.
Full religion swap.
Right. Full change of spectrum.
I guess not really 180, but more like a full 23, or I don't know.
That's it. Hey, Beethoven wrote, for all classical music geeks, wrote symphonies 5 and 6 at the same time. 5 being the heavy, big, dramatic one, and 6 being the beautiful pastoral one. They were like completely diametrically opposed, and he did it at the same time. So you're in good company, is what I'm trying to tell you. You're in good company.
Fun fact is that difference is that he is a genius.
Yes, but how great is your hearing, Michael?
My hearing is not great, but it was good enough to hear that the Alexa in the room, which is not listening to me, I was asking for some Ravel earlier, and it kept saying that I was playing Ravel songs, and I found it very sort of adorable. That it's like the next song by Ravel. It's Mozart's. Oh man, I love that song.
Right, Ravel's top 40 hits, the songs.
Exactly.
Speaking of your latest movie and period piece, I think your latest movie to be released to the world was The Current War, right? That's the last thing we've seen of yours on the screen, and that was kind of a whirlwind experience. Um, if you could, you touch on that without hitting all the bad feels on all that stuff. But how involved were you in the whole production wise? I know you went to England. You were on set with Mr. Cumberbatch and Tom Holland and Michael Shannon and all those guys, right? How involved were you in that production in terms of like on set and rewrites on the moment? And talk about that.
Um, Current War was such a difficult. I mean, it was the world's slowest car crash,
Right.
but it ended, at least for the work itself. It ended happily. So what does that mean? There was no one in the car. No, definitely people were impacted.
Right. And real quick, for those that don't know, it was
Harvey
produced,
Weinstein's last film, but
produced by the Weinstein Company, by his last film, and then all of a sudden you had no distributor, and all of a sudden you had this work that had no, legs to be shown to the public. So let's go back to you on set and having a great time with all those movie stars.
I was there for the shooting of it. The incredible director Alfonso Gomez Rejon insisted on it, which is something that we were very cash tight, and he insisted on it, and it isn't typical, because the argument is that the decisions were made ahead of time, but it had to be flexible, just based on anything from what the actors wanted to say and what they wanted to change, to wanting to see things from different angles, to writing new scenes, losing a location. That there are plenty. Oh, I probably rewrote 30% of the film.
Wow. So Michael Shannon comes over to you in a brooding way, saying, "I really feel like you should say it like this, Michael. What do you think?" Something like that. And then Cumberbatch comes over and, I really believe you. Go ahead. Something like that?
Benedict was extraordinarily polite and would say, "Michael, I don't believe I need you to say all of this with 5 lines. It's sort of,
give me one, man.
It's theatrical. I can do one, and the camera is quite close if you think about it." I'm like, yes.
Oh, good for him. Good for him.
Yes, that's exactly right.
He mentioned you in a couple press interviews, I remember.
He's an incredibly swell guy, and if there's time, there's a terrific anecdote that I can tell about him.
But we have time.
The flip side is that Michael Shannon, both of them have done a lot of theater. Michael Shannon, who's done so much theater. Also, when he's on set, he kind of remains in character. I wouldn't say is sort of totally method, but is largely in his own zone. And any tweaks that he made or changes he made made it immensely better. As I would see that he would change the word floor to ground, and these little details that he would pick up, and he put a verbal tick for his character of George Westinghouse in that I then noticed, oh man, he's building something. So I started to replicate through the lines. Both of them, honestly, the whole way around that film, except for one of the producers, it was a great experience.
That's awesome, man. That's killer. But then, of course, everything came to a crashing halt, which gave you a chance to go back and do what's known as the director's cut now, which you have to go back and probably take your time with it, right? And I'm sure the director, Alfonso, really appreciated that. And I love the film when I saw it. It's beautiful. It's like stunningly beautiful.
Thanks. It was because of the odd circumstances of the film being halted before it came out. It was frozen, and when a company 101 Films incredibly bought it, not only did they say, we're going to see, what money we can make back on this, step one, but let's put new money into it, which was incredible for us, because there were scenes that we didn't shoot in the first place that were already written, and that having edited the film for nearly a year, it informed us the scenes that we should have written and shot. And we got to go shoot four or five new scenes that are
Oh,
now
you did do a reshoot because new money was thrown in.
could do a reshoot. And the thing is, we also had this gun to our heads to release this earlier cut of the film because of I won't get into the weeds of it, but the notion is that foreign distributors bought rights to the movie. The movie exists. They want to release it.
Right.
But we're saying, wait, it's not finished actually, because it wasn't when we did it at Toronto Film Festival. And there was a miraculous little clause in the director's contract, what we call the Martin Scorsese clause. And Alfonso was a protege of Martin Scorsese. He was also an executive producer on the film. And it's simply...
I'm sorry, who's he?
He's a key grip.
Right.
And that said, if there is should hell freeze over and the film is lost and it couldn't have predicted this better,
incredible.
At the end of the day, that Martin Scorsese selects what will be the final cut legally. And so then he just turned to Alfonso and said, whatever you want. And then we got to do our extra scenes and we got it made the way we wanted. And 101 gave it a real theatrical release. So it had a kind of happy ending of 10 years of work.
That's incredible. What's the Cumberbatch story?
Oh, back when things were bleak, this was about a month before the New Yorker story on Harvey. We were doing this cut. We were showing early cut of the film at the Toronto Film Festival. The sound wasn't working, the film wasn't ready, and it just didn't feel like it went well. Third to half notices weren't great. So I wasn't feeling good when I met my parents for breakfast. But my mother sits down at the table in the hotel and she goes, and she's just beaming, glowing. And I'm like, what's going on, Mom? And she says, she leans forward and she goes, well, earlier today, I was down here having my yogurt, and then I got in the elevator to go back to the room, and I looked over, and it was Benedict Cumberbatch from your film. And I usually don't do this, but I thought, why not? And I turned and I said, excuse me, Mr. Cumberbatch, but I'm the writer's mom. And he said, oh, fuck, and kissed me right here. And it was this tremendous, adorable moment. And she was like, I can't wait to call him. My mom's a librarian. I can't wait to call my friends in book club. It was so...
Call the book club. They're going to go crazy.
Yeah. I'm sweating it about, I don't remember if it were Variety or whatever, but that made it a far is what I take away.
That's incredible, dude. That's amazing. Speaking of amazing stories, before we take some questions, you told us the story last time we were in New York about this odd little memento you have in your basement filled with dirt. I think you know what I'm referring to. You bid on it, right? Didn't you bid? Sort
of. It's what George is referring to is that I'm the owner of one of 3 of Harry Houdini's original bathtubs. I'm an enormous Houdini fan. In my spare time, I spend time reading very specific things about him. But what happened was I read they were selling his house for a couple years ago for the first time in 40 some years or whatever.
And he lived in New York somewhere on Upper
Yeah,
East
he
Side or
lived
something.
on well, 278 West 113th Street.
Right,
But
something like that.
of
I
course,
can't remember quite the numbers, but
of course. Um, and it was in the New York Daily News. I don't know why I was reading the Daily News. And that's the secret of the story. No, but it said Houdini's house for sale. Only things original are bookshelf, already spoken for by David Copperfield. And at that time, there were only 2 tubs left because Copperfield had taken one of the tubs. So, owner not sure what they're going to do with the tub. I'm sitting at my desk and I'm thinking, like, this is one of those moments in life. Harry Houdini's tub is potentially for sale. He theoretically held his breath underwater and rehearsed his escapes in that tub, clawfoot, enormous tub. So I need to have it. And I called the realtor, a woman whose name is, can I get in trouble saying a person's name?
We can edit this out.
Beverly Dragon.
Beverly Dragon.
Too good not to say. Beverly Dragon.
That's too good.
She was lovely. And
sounds like a femme fatale movie star. Beverly Dragon.
She was more than that, George. It was Beverly Dragon, and she said, "You're the 15th person who's called in the last half hour about this bathtub. I'll add you to a list, but the owner's not sure what he's going to do with the tub. If anything, we'll get back to you." Gave her my information and hung up. Then I sat there and I was like, yeah, this is one of those moments. So I called her back and I'm like, "Hi, Beverly Dragon." And she goes, "I told you." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. What if I show up at 278 West 113th Street today at 3 p.m. with a black backpack full of X money, and I will make that bathtub disappear? It's important to me because it's my father's birthday. He's turning 70. And
or not true.
He's not true. And for 70, we brought him to current war. He's turning 70. And we haven't spoken in years. Not true. Is where we have a totally fine functional relationship. And the last time we spoke was at the Houdini Museum that burned down in Niagara Falls. So I'm going to see him this weekend for his 70th birthday, and I can't think of anything that would knock his socks off more than coming down the street with Harry Houdini's own bathtub. So Beverly Dragon said to me, "Let me call you back."
Click.
And click. And I'm sitting there looking out the window at the people moving out across the street, and then my phone rings and I answer it, and it's Beverly Dragon, and I just hear 3 p.m. Click.
No.
So I'm like, oh shit, it's on.
Dude.
And I go to the Bank of America and I figure out how to take out money, more money than I've taken out. And they stop me because apparently if you don't sign your name the same way consistently, they do stop you. I just thought it was always bullshit and watch my friends, just write a straight line, essentially, like, steal my card. I don't care. They give the money back. I'll have to fix my Amazon, but I don't care. It actually could, Houdini's was in jeopardy at that moment. But I came through and I rode up to West 113th Street, and I knew because of a picture that there were 2 tubs, a small one, too small to hold its body, and then the tub that you'd want, the real one. Problem, it was full of dirt and flowers. So
are you saying Copperfield didn't get the right tub?
There are 2 tubs that are large enough proportionally to have held Houdini.
Gotcha.
His would have done it. Mine is the biggest and deepest. So if I'm trying to see if I'm gonna,
Atta babe, please tell me
underwater. Then again, he is an island and I have a mortgage, so I don't know. But let me speed it up. I spent like an hour and a half by myself getting all the shit out of the tub with a trowel. And then at the same time, the guy's like, so your dad likes Houdini? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, no, I like Houdini. And I was like, yeah, my dad loves Houdini. And then because of that, he's like, you want to see, we're waiting. Oh, by the way, while I'm doing this, I'm calling every moving company in Yelp. And it's some student weird moving weekend, and I cannot get anybody to come take this tub and move it anywhere.
Everybody's busy.
Everyone's busy. I've called about like 30 these people. Finally, I've got 2 people come with a van to pick up Harry Houdini's tub. And while I'm waiting with this lovely owner of the house, he's like, people come by that love Houdini and they want to see the basement because it's got some stuff in there that he had and it's pretty much original. And I don't show it to him because he got like a little kick out of it. And he's like, you want to see it? And because he thought I didn't care, it was probably the only time in my life that I've been a successful actor, because I was like, a basement? Who would ever want to see a little old basement? This is weird. Oh, we should make arches as cool as these are in our place, and check that out. Then they came with the van. We loaded the tub into the thing. The guys loved it. They took pictures of themselves in the tub while we were going down the West Side Highway. We got it back to the place where I was staying. My landlords got very upset because it wouldn't fit through the door and I couldn't get it into my apartment. So I asked to park it in front of the building. They said no and didn't understand how obviously significant Harry Houdini's bathtub is. So I went upstairs and got all of these creepy pieces of memorabilia that I purchased. And I was like, see, here's an original photo of Houdini getting dumped in the Hudson River with chains on him. He practiced in that. And it was sort of just like that all together.
You're telling your landlady this.
Yeah. And then she
said,
this
is important. Please let the van sit out in front
of the... let the tub remain in front of your brownstone. And she said, sure. So it sat outside of the house for about a year and a half until I eventually moved. And that's the current story of Houdini's bathtub. And I'm trying to now get an operation going of Houdini's bathtub gin. But I don't know anything about working with
that's good too.
Or anybody. It's a terrific idea my wife had of trying to get any kind of value out of my worthless obsessions. So yeah, let me know if anyone wants to.
Please tell me that's incredible. Right. He made his own hooch. Wow.
Well, Houdini didn't. I'm just saying, if you're making,
if you're gonna,
I love that I have to specify. I feel so
sorry. I thought. Sorry.
No, he was a teetotaler. No. Houdini. No. He did not. In fact, once he was locked in a barrel full of beer and he couldn't handle it. But no, I'm just saying, bathtub gin is a thing, and I've got a fun bathtub, and I know there are freaks who love Houdini. Is the point of this?
My Houdini story is very short, 20 seconds. I was in the hospital with appendicitis, and I'm watching the History Channel, and it's I know you know where this is going. I'm watching the History Channel. It's a thing about Houdini, and it ends up being like the oldest story. I'm taken away. My mind is taken away from all the pain I'm in. Blah blah. I'm looking at this documentary, and all of a sudden, and then it ends with him getting punched in the gut. And he goes to several people. You probably tell this story better. He goes to several people and being like, "Oh, yeah, it's nothing. Don't worry about it." And then he ends up dying of appendicitis. And I'm in the hospital for appendicitis. And I'm like, "Check, please. I think I need to leave. I think I need to leave." So that was very weird.
I'm glad that you survived. And George,
I did.
If I had to choose between you and Houdini, I would absolutely. Sorry, someone distracted me. What's your next question?
The next question is, on that note, we're going to open it up to everybody. And Becky, if you want to unmute, and whoever has a question.
I have to follow that. Best story ever.
Incredible. Please tell me it's a play, Michael, or a movie, or
Yes.
that your reps know about it. I know you're doing some kind of treatment on this, right? It's got to be.
They generally know about any leverageable assets I have. When the dark days descend, if I can eke out a month out of a bathtub, that'll be the greatest value it has.
Right, and you have to be in it because you're a character that resembles you, because that's, from your perspective, is incredible.
Physically the bathtub, because it could function as a shelter if I repair where the drain was.
There you go. Becky, back to you.
Why do I have to follow this? This is amazing. Oh, you guys, this was terrific. I think let's just open it up. Who has questions for Michael, or questions for George, or bathtub stories of their, or maybe Houdini stories of their own? Yes, Peter.
And Michael, I just want to mention that you look just like Houdini. So that's another coincidence.
Ooh.
That is very kind.
Yeah. So mostly I just wanted to thank you. Not that you know me, but I run a couple of small theater companies just south of San Jose. And as we're all struggling to figure out what to do during COVID, what we've been doing is doing small shows, small cast shows in front of a green screen and streaming them to our clients. And the last thing we did was 5 short 10-minute comedies. And one of them was Hail Caesar, which I don't even know if you remember writing, but it's very cute, and it fit in with the others really well, and it went over really well with our patrons. So and it also
so much, Peter. That is so that makes my night.
good
And
to hear.
I do remember writing that. I wrote that in grad school. There's something called league scenes that I think you all know probably what those are, but the actors get a chance to do scenes from Shakespeare, a little comedy thing in front of all the agents, and hopefully see what their futures become. And so I would try to write material to just get people to even see what I was writing at the time. So, I would try to get something to like Lupita Nyong'o, and then I would try to get something to my friend Will, and that was Hail Caesar.
So I got to know your CAA agents very well, trying to license the damn thing, which is not just that straightforward.
I'm sorry about that.
And anyway, it was fun, and it made me realize what a really weird sense of humor you have. The storyline finishes with the final line. I can't believe Beth is dead, which is, I just thought, the greatest line. So I'll just remind you of that, and thank you for permitting me to use that show in my group of 5 little short, quick comedies that we put together into one event.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you. And next time you ever want anything, go through City Lights. I'll get it for you directly, free of charge. But I appreciate it. That may have been the world premiere.
It could well be.
Oh, that's great. Peter, which theater company is this? Oh, Peter,
Sorry, I muted myself by mistake. So it's Limelight Theater in Gilroy and South Valley Civic Theater in Morgan Hill.
Oh, great.
The Morgan Hill one acquired the Gilroy one, the Limelight one, about a year ago. So we have 2 venues now. We do 8 shows a year now across 2 venues. If we ever get started again, it'll be great.
Wow. I used to live in Prunedale, so I drove by Gilroy and Morgan Hill just about every single day going to City Lights.
I thought I recognized you, so that must be why.
Yeah, I drove by and I waved. Thank you, Michael. I want to ask. So I have never seen the current war. Is it streaming anywhere? Can we find it somewhere right now?
I think I think it's on Showtime streaming, or it was recently, and then I know it's available for $2.99 through any of the outlets. Although the last thing I want is a commercial, so just wait a couple more months, and I'm sure it will eventually tumble out on Netflix or Prime or something like that.
Good to know. I'm sure there may be people who don't know the movie. Can you tell us a little bit about the story behind it?
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a story that when I first read about it, I couldn't believe that it was true, but it is. At the turn of the last century, there was a very ugly race and battle between two titans of industry and science, Tom Edison and George Westinghouse, with Nikola Tesla, racing to wire the modern world. Which will they use? Alternating current by Westinghouse, or direct current by Edison? And Edison built the first system that could both provide light and industry. His problem was that it was expensive and it didn't work very well. And Westinghouse came forward with a cheaper and better system and said, Mr. Edison, would you like to work with me? And Edison said, absolutely not. And in fact, if you come at me, I'm going to destroy you. And he sort of did that by having, it's unclear from history how he actually did it, but there are rumors that Edison had some of his men steal a genuine Westinghouse high voltage generator, then travel around to towns that were trying to determine which electricity to buy and saying, well, if you go with Westinghouse, look what will happen to your family. And they would connect the generator to dogs, cats, horses, cows, gorillas. A gorilla, which had not yet really been seen in the United States. It happened, I believe, in Colombia. We don't do that one in the movie, I think. And a circus elephant, Topsy, which is also not in the was in the script but not in the movie, although you can watch it on as one of the first films that Edison made, if you're so darkly inclined. And at the same time, a third person comes along and sees Edison battling Westinghouse and says, if you can kill animals with electricity, I've been hired by the governor of New York to find a humane method of execution, and hanging certainly isn't it. Maybe you can build some kind of electric booth or electric chair or something that could dispatch people without a trace of pain. And Edison said, of course it can be done. The man said, will you build it? And Edison said, no. The one principle I sort of do have is that I don't build weapons. And he didn't. He didn't take money from the army or any of these places that could have made him a guy who was chronically spending all of his money on every failed venture. All the money they would make from something successful, he would burn away. But he did have that principle until finally Westinghouse took enough of the market that JP Morgan was going to pull all of Edison's funding. And everything would go away until Edison said, I'll make a deal with the devil. I want people to be too scared to buy Westinghouse by knowing that it's the official system of electricity used to kill people. And so Edison helped design the first electric chair with two stipulations. One is that it would use Westinghouse brand electricity, and that would be very well advertised. And then two, that all of his patents was something like 1,093, that until past the year 2000 was the world record. It was the only credit he did not want, the only invention he did not want his name on. And then things continued to go out of control. So that's this movie that first I wrote in grad school as oddly enough as a musical, and I unfortunately fell in love with it and wrote into screenplay, and then it took years and years and years, but we got it done.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to watch it. That sounds really interesting.
I think that was pretty much the experience. I mean, at least in length. The movie's shorter.
Good to know. Other questions? Feel free to type them into the chat or just turn your camera on. Any of that? Lisa.
I have a question.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm better now, getting to spend the evening with you.
Thank you for having me.
Do you recognize
I love the background. It's a former stomping ground of ours.
Yes, for boozy lunches.
Yes, it is.
There's always to celebrate when you come to town. That's the thing.
I pulled that from my photos just for you tonight. At that and the Spacebar one, you saw that too, didn't you?
I love that one.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I just have. I want to just make sure that you know that the chat was blowing up about if your tiger pig play is ready to show to anybody. Me. We love your work. Send it to me. That's one thing.
Thank you.
Really, I'm not kidding too. Like,
I'm gonna go through it and make sure that it's worth your time.
well,
but
I'll look at it and
a great
I
time
can let
to
you
listen to
know.
George, or we can make it better together. But I'm just
Right.
on the gas for it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really, let's plan it. Like, let's just make that happen. But my question is, your lovely wife is also a writer and also very funny. And I just wonder, who's funnier in your household? And do you try to make each other laugh, or do you like test material on each other, or who's funnier?
Do you guys like work out bits together?
We have a couple, but I think don't all couples have their bits that they do when they know they're at a mixed company and they got their little thing like or they've got their unique take on politics that week with their keywords they want to throw in. But anyway, no, Jess is far funnier than I am, and I sometimes don't get all of her jokes. I know she doesn't get all of the things that I call jokes, which I think are much more than our what other people would classify as them. But I try to save any kind of A game that I have for when I'm in trouble, and then try a what I like to call a joke divert, so that she'll hopefully laugh, and then I'll ask her a question about something that we actually really need to discuss. So she has to give me the answer on that because it's critical in one way or another. And now we're 2 steps away from the fight. So
No, don't look at me because I can't follow that either.
Yeah, that's brilliant. 2 steps
That's
away from the fight.
I like it. I like it. Oh my goodness, we're after 9. How did that happen? Well, hey, sometimes we go till 9, sometimes we go later. It's all good. Anybody else have questions for Michael? Or Michael, is there anything else that you would like us to know about you and your fabulous self?
I mean, I just want to say that City Lights has a special place in my life because of their and your continued commitment to the stuff that I write. And it sounds like the thing I should be saying, and it is the thing I should be saying, but it also has I forget who said it, but it has the added benefit of being true. And I'm well aware that for theater especially, the type of stuff I write isn't exactly the trendiest, but the fact that you can get excited about these things that have excited me to write about is special, because every playwright, if any of us are lucky enough to have our City Lights, it just means that there's a potential future for us to keep the theater going just as you guys have been. But sometimes it's hard, especially in moments like this, to get off the mat and say, well, maybe I should just be doing a movie, because who knows if what the future brings and when they're going to open the theater. But instead, now I want to from this phone call go and see, is there anything salvageable in Lion Pig, Wolf and Snake, to see if that might be something that can help bring us together, because boy, would that be a nice thing to do. So thank you everyone for coming to this, and to all of you, and for hosting. It's I always get a kick out of it.
Thanks for doing this, man. Thanks for taking the time and staying up past your bedtime in the wee hours of Brooklyn o'clock.
I took 2 naps today so that I could make
Good.
this happen. And
so
this
you're all napped and ready.
Caffeinated coffee, so I'm doing it.
You planned ahead.
Yes.
Well, I want to let you all know that if you missed any of this tonight, if you came late, we do have all our programs from the next stage on our YouTube. And this is also going to be on City Lights' new podcast channel, Filament. George also happens to be our sound designer who does incredible sound design work on Filament. And if you go to our website, cltc.org, you can find links to all that stuff. So Next week, our series is going over to Facebook. We alternate Zoom and Facebook, and we have the amazing performing artist Chalista and her ensemble. And she's got this great work called Finding San Jose. It's a stage poem, and it mixes music and dance and film and voice. And it's a work that she premiered in 2016, and she's doing a virtual adaptation of it on City Lights Facebook. So check us out this time next week. Michael, thank you. George, thank you. What a terrific evening. What a treat to just watch the two of you with your great friendly chemistry. That was a lot of fun. And God, Houdini's bathtub. That's the best story I've heard in a long time.
It's a good one. It's a gem.
As they say, getting up from the Thanksgiving table to go back into the buffet. I'm going to become that guy. You should go talk to him. No, he's going to talk about the bathtub. Anyway, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Thanks, you,
bud.
Michael.
Always good to see you.
Pleasure.
All right.
Thanks,
till
everyone.
next All right.
Good night.
George, you're the man.
You're the man, dude.